All right, so in 5.2, the main idea of 5.2 is to find out what the end behavior of a function looks like. The end behavior meaning the first part and then the last part. So the middle part, we don't know, but then to find out what the end behavior, the first and the last part of the graph looks like. So there are some patterns here that we can find out. So looking at here, I'm gonna look at this example first of all. So this example says, describe the end behavior of this function. F of x is equal to 3 to the x to the 8th, 3 times x to the 8th power. So I hope you can see that it says to the 8th power. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is the degree? What is the degree of this polynomial? The degree is the highest exponent, right? The degree is the highest exponent. And the highest exponent in this problem is 8, right? So the degree of this is 8. So by knowing the degree, we're going to be able to know what the end behavior is going to look like. Is 8 an even or odd number? Even, right? So since it's an even number, looking at this chart here, it says that if you have an even degree, you will know that your end behavior will either both be pointing up or their end behavior will be both be pointing down. So here is what happens if you have an even degree. So if you think of a polynomial that has an even degree, you can think of the quadratic, right? So for an example, so again, I don't like to memorize things because I have very little memory RAM left in my brain. So I try to just think of something that I already understand and I apply it. So if you think of f of x is equal to x squared, right? That's an even, this is an even degree, right? N is 2, it's an even degree, and you know it either looks like a parabola, which could be up or down, right? So here, an even degree could either have the endpoints going upwards or the endpoints going downwards, right? If it was x to the 8th power, it might be going going up and down, but you know that the end degrees will always be pointing upwards or pointing downwards, right? Whereas if you had an odd degree, it would be going in opposite directions, right? So an even degree could look like a parabola, right? Whereas an odd degree, one is going to start off down and it's going to end up going upwards. And vice versa, it could be starting upwards and it ends up down. So they're going in opposite directions, right? So odd degree, even degree, by looking at this, you'll be able to know which shape it is. So in this problem here, I know that based on it being a degree of 8, it's an even degree. Either it's going to be both pointing upwards or they're going to be both pointing downwards in terms of their end behavior. In the middle of the graph, I don't know what it looks like, but I just know that the end behavior is going to look like that. Is everyone okay with that? So the question is, which one is it? So how do you know which one it is when you look at the leading coefficient. So the leading term or the leading coefficient is the number that is being multiplied to that highest degree. So here's the number 3, right? So here it says, look at the power of the leading term or the leading coefficient. So here, this number, is it positive or negative? Positive. So since this is a positive, so since A is positive, so just like when you're thinking of a parabola, if it's positive, is it happy or sad? Happy, right? So here, if it's a positive, if A is positive, it's going to look kind of like a happy face. They're both pointing upwards. If A is negative, they're going to be both pointing downwards, right? So I'm using things that we already know, which is a parabola, but I'm applying this to anything with an even degree. So n to the 4th, 6th, 8th, 10, etc. So in this problem, is it going to be the first one or the second one? The first one. And why the first one? Right. because x1 is even, so because it's even, it's going to be this one or this one. But why would it be pointing upwards? Right, because the coefficient is positive. Is everyone okay with that Natalie said? Okay, so let's, and then here, in this one, if it's odd degree, if A is positive, then it's going to be going in this direction. So I kind of think of it like an odd degree is x to the first power, right? And if you think of something to the first power, it looks kind of like a line, right? Anything to the first power is a line. So if something has a slope that's positive, it's going this way, right? If A is negative, so say the slope is negative, it's going to be going down this way, right? So looking at this problem here, the second problem, example, first of all, is this an even or an odd degree? Odd. It's 7, so it's an odd degree, right? So therefore, what are the two options that this graph can look like? It'll look like this or like that, right? So I'm going to write down the two options. It's going to look like this or like that or like this and like that. Like they're going in opposite directions because they're odd degree, right? So the question is it this one or is it this one? So I look at the leading coefficient. Is it positive or negative? Negative. So here A is negative. So since it's negative, I kind of think of it, it's an odd degree, so it's like a line and with a negative slope. So it's going to be the first one or the second one? The second one, right? Perfect. And that's what 5.2 is all about. It's to help you to determine whether what the endpoints are going to look like. And again, this is not on your quiz or your exam, but this is going to be part of 5.4 and 5.3 and 5.4 that we're doing today.